ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै गुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणं रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणवन्तं श्रीशाकान्तिकांश्च करुणासिन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So sorry, I'm late. I was with Guru Maharaj till about 5 minutes ago, so it took me a minute to get back. So we are continuing reading from Srila Prabhupada's, let's see here, conversation, it's a lecture, Srimad Bhagavatam 110.4, delivered in London in November 25, 1973. So, seems like we are in, do you remember which paragraph? Because I know the location, but I think it's so we have created a society for killing cows and eating the meat.
We're a little bit beyond that.
Or a bit beyond that.
Bhagavad Gita 7:4. Did we read that verse? Remember you chanted the Varnasrama. You went through that, didn't you, Kathy?
No, I don't go through that.
Oh yeah, I remember reading the Cowherd Boys.
Yeah. It's a little bit like after that.
So our Krishna conscious movement is not a sentimental movement?
Maybe some. Yeah.
Oh, let's just begin with that. Okay, someone can begin reading.
Is page 52 on the PDF. I guess I'll start. Use this mic.
Yeah.
So, this is on. This.
Up is on, bottom is not on.
This is not on. Nothing on this. Hare Krishna. Is good now?
Yes.
Okay, so our Krishna consciousness movement is not a sentimental movement. It takes care of all-round social organization. It is not something like religious sentiment. Everything should be taken care of. Therefore, we say cow protection, cow protection. Here it is said, Kaman Vavarsha Pranjanya Sarva Kaman Dugha Mahi. Mahi means land, Bhumi. Agnir Mahi Gaganam Ambhu Marudhishaha Mahi. This Mahi. In another Brahma Samhita, it is said Mahi. Agnir Mahi Gaganam Ambhu Marudhishascha Kalas Tatatma Manasiddhi Jagat Trayani Yasmad Bhavanti Bhavanti Vashanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The three worlds are composed of the 9 elements, viz. Fire, earth, ether, water, air, direction, time, soul, and mind. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom they originate, in whom they exist, and in whom they enter at the time of universal cataclysm. This word Mahi is used there in the Vedas, Brahma Samhita. What is this Mahi? Agnir Mahi. You require fire, you require land, you require sky. Agnir Mahi Ganam Abhu. This, you require water. Agnir Mahi Gagandam Ambhu Marut. You require air, you require space. These are requirements. Agnir Mahi Gaganam Ambhu Marut Dishascha Kala Tatatma. Tatatma. Atma. Atma means this body. Atma means the mind, and Atman means the soul. So in the Brahma Samhita, you see Agnir Mahi Gargadan Anbhu Marud Dishashcha Kala Tatatma Manasidi Jagat Trayani Yasmad Bhavanti. All these things, where from they are coming, they do not know. Can the scientists say where from so much water has come? So vast ocean, seas, but it has come from Krishna. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhumir apo nalovhayu kan mano bhurir evacha ahankara iti yame bhinhan prakatir ashtara. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Bhinan me prakritihi. It is Krishna's energy. So the Mahi, the land is there, just like in America or in Australia. There are so much land. In Africa, so much land laying vacant. But they do not know that this land can produce all the necessities of life. Sarva kama dukhak mahi. Sarva kama, whatever you want, actually we are getting.
Okay, yeah.
Just like this Western.
Yeah, just like the Western civilization has created so many slaughterhouses for eating purposes, but where from they are getting? From Mahi, from the land. If there is no pasturing ground, grazing ground, where from they will get the cows and the bulls? That is also because there is grass on the land and the cows and the bulls eat them, therefore they grow. Then you cut their throat, civilized man, and eat, you rascal civilized man. But you are getting from Mahi, from the land. Without land, you cannot. Similarly, instead of cutting the throat of the cows, you can grow your food. Why are you cutting the throat of the cows? After all, you have to get from the Mahi, from the land. So as they are the animals which you are eating, they are getting the edibles from the land. Why don't you get your edibles from the land? Therefore, it is said, Sarva kama dukha Mahi. You can get all the necessities of your land of your life from land. So dugha means produce. You can produce your food. Some land should be producing the foodstuff for the animals, and some land should be used for the production of your foodstuffs, grain, fruits, flowers, and take milk. Why should you kill these innocent animals? You keep the muda happy. Muda happy. And you get so much milk that it will make wet the ground. This is civilization. That was being maintained during the time of Maharaj Yudhishthir. That is being described. Maharaj Yudhishthir maintained this standard of civilization. Just see how the economic problems will be solved simply by one movement, this Krishna conscious movement. Try to understand Mahi, because Mahi will produce everything.
We could go on because it's a similar thing, and then I'll say something.
Just like here in this Lechmore heat, there are so much land lying vacant. You produce your own food. Why you are going to London to the factories? There is no need. This is the wrong civilization. Here is the land. You produce your food. If you produce your food, there is no need of going 100 miles, 50 miles on your motorcycle or motor to earn your livelihood. Why? There is no need. Then you require petrol, and petrol there is a scarcity. Then you require so many parts, that means you are making the whole thing complicated unnecessarily. There is no need. Simply you keep to the land and produce your food, and the cows are there. They will supply you milk. Then there is your economic problems. If you have sufficient grain, sufficient vegetables, sufficient milk from the land where you are living, where are your economic problems? Why you should go to the other place? That is the Vedic civilization. Everyone should remain in the spot and produce everything as he requires, and God will help you. because you can produce from the land anywhere. The rainfall is there. If you have good land and the rainfall is regular, then you can produce anything. Kamam Vavasha Parjanyah. And how the rainfall will be possible? How regular rainfall? That is described in Bhagavatam. Yajat Bhavati Parjanyam Parjanyat Anna Sambhavaha. Is there a Bhagavad Gita here? Yajat Bhavati Parjanyah.
So, this point about the land producing everywhere, I was just, one of the communities we're thinking of visiting, I was just mentioning to Guru Maharaj, is the Woodcrest Bruderhof in New York, upstate New York. And out of curiosity, what I did is, because I have this app that I'm using to check about soil quality for land and this and that, and there's a soil rating, which tells you, how useful the soil is according to the USDA for growing specifically grains such as corn, soy, wheat, and other important grains that are grown primarily grown in the United States. And I just checked their soil rating. They were established in 1954. They're a community of 300 people. They grow all the food they need, pretty much. Apart from that, they do other things, but they also seem to grow most of their food there. And the soil rating is terrible. It's 30, which 30 out of 100, which is not good. It's not good soil rating. In comparison, our temple is 20. So I can give you an idea of what kind of soil they have up there. But they're able to grow things. I'm shocked, because if you look at it, the slope is too steep, and the soil, I don't understand. But and then when I mentioned this to Guru Maharaj mentioned how in Israel, before the country of Israel was established, it was Palestine. Palestine was mostly semi-arid land. The people came in, Jews, and they developed the land so well that it's now a heavy agriculture area, which is producing so much. So from this we can understand how what Prabhupada is saying is actually true. You can really turn any piece of land, especially with the help of cows, that we also see that even practically almost any book I'm reading about farming speaks about how you need to have the cow to come and start enriching the soil with its manure. They don't talk so much about the milk. They're mainly talking about the stool that the cow will pass and the urine that you get out of it and how it fertilizes the land like anything. And other animals, of course. But only someone who has some idea of God consciousness will be able to look at things in this way, because they'll understand that God has created this world, and God has created this world in a manner that it's meant to function. Everything is meant to function with each other. And we learn that from, where do we learn that from? Ishopanishad. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. That the world has been created in a perfect way. It's whole, meaning that everything that is required to live within this world can be produced, can be found within this world. And Prabhupada says any sense of incompleteness is due to a lack of understanding of the complete. That it's a lack of understanding of Krishna's creation, and that's the only reason why we sometimes might feel incomplete. And so, one of the goals of our Varnashram farm projects, as we can see here, is to try to live off the land and be satisfied with what the land produces. I've heard that different fruits are produced in different seasons. But if they're local fruits, they're actually good for you because they're produced in the season and you're meant to consume it in that season, and it helps counteract some of the other problems that one may experience with the season. Similarly with herbs, you may face certain problems with insects or things like that, and generally it is understood that the cure for such problems are also found in the same land. We don't know all these things, also because we live in a it's a small world after all, where everything, we get stuff that's imported from all different countries, and then you get diseases and problems and issues that you can't find locally, so now you have to import the medicines also. And the herbs are also imported, and then sometimes they work, they don't work. And so there's a lot of advantage to going local, but it also requires us to get educated of what local is. We're not used to it. We're not used to it because we've also not been raised that way. And so our even the way our body functions right now is it's not used to this. And so all these things are there. For instance, in South India, although rice was consumed, it wasn't universally consumed in South India. They also used to eat ragi. Ragi was widely eaten because you can't grow rice in certain areas, and you could easily grow ragi. What's ragi called? Millet, but what is this type of millet? Maybe you don't know what ragi is. You all know? Huh? You know it by ragi, so you know what ragi is. You know? Yeah, okay.
Ekadashi stuff, right?
Huh? No, ragi is not ekadashi.
It's very heavy. It's very nutritious.
It's very nutritious. It can be eaten instead of rice. It's, according to many, it doesn't. Huh?
Is it reddish?
It's red-brown.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But it's not granulated.
Yeah, it's like
It forms big lumps actually. Huh?
Finger millet. That's what
Finger millet. Finger millet. It's extremely nutritious. It gives you a lot of energy.
it looks like baby food.
And it's great for people who are farming and things like that because they develop very strong, but it doesn't give you that, kind of little sense gratification that you get out of rice. And so this is difficulty that, for instance, some devotees tend to face because they can't grow rice in that particular area. And they have to eat ragi, but they didn't want to eat ragi because it's like they couldn't eat. No, kurmagram, you have too much rice. That not even it was the farm up because this was in the mountains, so you don't produce rice in the mountains. You could, I guess, but not there. At least for some reason they couldn't do. I don't know what. You need a lot of water. That's one thing.
Yeah, they don't have water.
So kurmagram's got plenty of water, and the rice is fantastic. Kurmagram is just amazing rice. But yeah, that's the thing. It's a challenge in that sense. But if we can somehow adjust ourselves to that, it is healthy. It's not easy though, but we have to work towards it. Okay. No, Gurmarj is eating more like sama, which is a different type of millet. What type of millet is that?
It's different kind of millet every day. Oh. He switches, there's like 6 different kinds. Which, ragi is one of them.
He's the one that he takes ragi?
He takes 6 different kinds.
He used to take ragi. I don't think he takes it right now.
What is it? Finger millet, was it?
Finger millet.
Yeah, he takes finger millet.
Oh, that's ragi then. Oh, he's taking them.
It's funny though, because it seems like these foods which are naturally grown are actually so much more tasty and nutritious, but it seems like there's a conception that like health food is like bland or like not relishable or something. There's like a misconception.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know how to make it right, then it can taste pretty bland. Whereas rice, just by itself, doesn't taste bland. It's like people eat plain rice. You eat just plain millet. So the thing is, just like with Sama, like actually, I was appreciating how Prem Sagar made this Sama Khichdi for Narsingha Chaturdasi for those who weren't fasting. And I was serving it during the feast because there was bucket left and we were serving it. And the aroma from that was so amazing actually. I was like, I was tempted, and at least prior to coming to the United States, I was not a fan of Sama. I was not, because many times devotees, if you don't, see, you have to cook it, there's also culinary art too, that you have to also know how to cook things. And sometimes when you don't, and the thing is, because we're not used to cooking those things and we don't sometimes have a conception, we also make it like not taste good. Somebody was telling me about bok choy recently.
Oh, that sounds good.
And if it's cooked nice, somebody told me that I did bok choy and you ate it and you liked it. And I was like, I did like it, but I generally never liked it because this at least the way I was served bok choy was, and we were discussing about broccoli the other day. I mean, yeah, if the broccoli you're gonna get is just salted and steamed, it's okay.
And black pepper.
I can understand why it can be rather not very pleasant, but if it's different ways in which you can make it.
Well, broccoli from the grocery store may be like that, but if you have it from your land, it's a whole different.
That's also there. That's also there. This is also a very good point. That is also a very good point. That stuff that's grown on the land naturally tastes much better. That's also a very, very good point.
Soil has to be really, really rich, though. That's the thing.
That's also a good point. But there is a factor where it's not just eating what's grown. Sometimes there's also a way to present what's being grown, and so it requires a little bit of a shift, which sometimes we get stuck up because we don't, we want. Okay, give you an example. With this finger millet, you can't. This lemon rice. It's not going to work. It tends to lump up.
What about tomato rice?
Now, if you're very attached to this, it's a problem. But you have to shift your perspective and eat what will taste good with that item. And then it will taste good anyways. But if I want this, then it becomes difficult.
Just adjust to the simple living and high thinking, right?
There's also a higher taste, where it's not just eating for the satisfaction of the tongue. Like, the pleasure of the tongue is there, but there's also the pleasure of after you take it. So like many of the things that are not good for us, it feels really good when we're taking it, but afterwards you feel terrible.
Yeah.
So does it really feel good? Whereas something that, we were talking about health foods may seem austere. Maybe it does taste austere, but you feel good after the fact. So it's giving you prana. It's like a higher taste, so it's not.
You function better, you think better, you sleep better.
There's pleasure in that.
Better.
I mean, it's such a more wholesome, pleasureful life if you live for the satisfaction of the body, not just the tongue.
And not having so many diseases and all kinds of deficiencies. Okay, we continue reading.
You eat? Is that it? That's right. Okay. We are trying to give as much possible happiness to our students. Otherwise, unless he is, one feels happy. How? It is little difficult. Unless one is very advanced in Krishna consciousness, one cannot adjust things. Therefore, our policy is that, what is called yogo bhavati siddhi, yuktahara viharasya yogo bhavati siddhi. We are yogis, but we are not that kind of yogi, unnecessarily giving trouble to the body. No. Yuktahara, you eat. You require to eat. You eat. Don't starve. Don't unnecessarily fast, but don't eat voraciously. That is bad. That is not yukta. You eat, but don't eat voraciously. Because there is something very palatable, let me eat voraciously, and then again fall sick. And if you cannot digest, then you will sleep. You will sleep only. Therefore don't eat more, but eat whatever is necessary. Yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu Yuktasvapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukhaha. Bhagavad Gita 6:17. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Eat whatever necessity, whatever you can. One man's food, another man's poison. One man eats, say, too much voraciously. Another man cannot digest. If he imitates, oh, he is eating so much, I will also eat so much. No, he can digest it, let him eat. But if you cannot digest, don't eat more. That is required. Then what is that verse? Continue.
Anad Anad bhavati bhutani parjanyad anasambhavaha yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajna karma samudbhavaha. All living Bhagavad Gita 3:14. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Prabhupada, that's it. Everything is cycle. If you execute your prescribed duties as a brahmana, as a kshatriya, as a vaishya, or as a sudra, as a brahmachari, as a grihasta, as a vanapras, or as a sannyasi, divisions are there. Division must be there, just like government. For executing nicely the governmental business, there are so many departments. Not that one department, only king, queen, then government. Why the government spending so much money maintaining so many buildings? Simply Queen's Palace, that Buckingham, that is sufficient? No, there must be departments. So these are departments. This Brahmana, this Kshatriya, this Vaishya, this Sudras. Just like in your body, there are departments. This department, brain, head. Therefore, it is called head. Head office, head office. Why do you refer to the head office? It's come from this head. Why Godhead? Supreme Godhead, the Supreme. Therefore, we say Godhead. That's described in Bhagavad Gita 7:7. Mataha parataram nanyat kinchit ati danjanjaya. There is no more superior person than me. So the divisions required. The divisions required. So for these divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Without the divisions, so what is? Read the verse again.
So here, one thing that Srila Prabhupada is saying, eat whatever necessary, whatever you can. One's man's food, another man's poison. This point is not just limited to just eating, but one can take it as consuming anything. That we need to be satisfied with needs, and just because someone else's needs are different to ours doesn't mean that we should think that that becomes our need and that we should take that. This is an extremely important point, to live satisfied. Because if we think, oh, that devotee is doing like this, therefore, and then we start to feel insecure about our lives, you can never be peaceful. We have everything that we need? Yes, okay, fine, just be happy, finished. It is, yeah, that's a good verse. Ishavashim idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam tena tyaktena bunjita magrida kasya sudhanam tena tyakti. Take what you need. Don't desire, they're doing this, they're doing that, he lived like that, he lives like this, he dresses like that, she does this or has that in her house or whatever. There is no end to this. Absolutely no end. By the design of karma, different people will be experiencing different things, and different people will have things that others don't. And that's just the nature of how the world is. We all live together, we're all eating the same food, but somebody may suddenly get an inheritance of $2 million. Or somebody may get a better mango than us. So the thing is that that's an important point to understand, because he got $2 million. Now he doesn't have to worry anymore. What about me? What about me? What about and then they get panicky and frantic, and then they start you will never be peaceful. That is called creating a problem when there is none. Just creating a problem out of, and we can solve actual problems. We can't solve problems that are invented. There is no solution to a problem that's invented. Because it's an invented issue. It's not a real issue. I feel. Then how are you supposed to deal with this? You can't do anything. Stop feeling. Because there's no need, but I can't do anything about it. And this is important, because Otherwise, I mean, anybody who wants to be peaceful should just realize that. And it's hard. It's natural for us to look at other devotees and look at other people and look at other things. But that's all coming from the platform of wanting to be the enjoyer. That's it. I see it, therefore I must enjoy it, or I must have it, or I am lacking. It is not that I need it. I want to enjoy that. Why am I not allowed to enjoy that? And that's ultimate. Yes, that comes out in different ways. I'm feeling insecure, this and that. And in regards to that, again, as we were studying these communities, these Anabaptist communities, especially the Bruderhofs, they're very successful. People are highly satisfied. They've lived decades like this, raised children. Children have gone on, raised more families. They don't own anything. These communities, people are not allowed to own anything. They own zero. They don't have a bank account, nothing. They don't even, they have their clothes, they have their toothbrush and all of that. But that's pretty much it. One of the people that we were watching in a video said he got moved about 30 to 30 different homes in the same community. He's been moved around. That's a lot, 30 different homes. And we were discussing about these things, how highly surrendered they actually are. And Guru Maharaj was making the point, he said, somehow, why is it that in our movement, sometimes we see that, as soon as there's a little group of devotees and this and that, we get these little mini tyrants who all, try to become, power hungry and try to control and become mini dictators. Mini dictators. Whereas these communities have existed without a single charismatic leader leading them and provide for their needs. And they are, again, the point, they're meat eaters, they drink quite. I think the Bruderhof seem to drink a good bit. Not get drunk, but at least drink. And how is it? The simple thing is we lack faith. We have a lot of philosophy. There's no doubt our philosophy is extremely deep, very profound. They don't have that. And in spite of that, they have a better moral compass than us. How shameful is this? We're chanting the holy names. Why? Because we don't have faith. We just lack faith. We lack a lot of faith. Otherwise, it's surprising. They call it the community of goods. It means they share everything. And they've been going on. They invite visitors and they're growing like anything. They're growing in numbers. There's one community that just started in Tennessee, 2021. One started in South Korea in 2022. They have 200 people in Australia, Germany, a couple of communities in England, one in Paraguay. Okay, Paraguay. And then a couple in North America, several in America actually. So yeah. Anyways. Okay. I think we'll mark, where are we? Pradyumna. Yeah, okay. All right.
More on the point of we were talking about Ishavasymidam Sarvam, this particular verse, that even if one actually looks at someone else's possessions or position, if you got that position, your karma may be such that you'll suffer like anything, even if you had that. So even if you had that $2 million, because you might not be qualified for it, you'll suffer because it's not something that that's accustomed to what you can handle. So it's important to recognize often you'll see patterns in our own karmas in life over time. If you're a little conscious how you are and what you're destined for. And if you accept it, then it's happy. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not meant to have much money in my life. That's okay. That's fine. And so if you kind of understand that, then it just becomes easier. Because in the Bhagavatam, we see that one man, it's hard for one person to understand the pain of another, and for the other person to understand the pain of another. So it's important to recognize that. Otherwise, you get pulled away by lust, and then you lose it on that basis.
We have such a solid philosophy that we can understand that anything that is adorable in this world, whether that is wealth, beauty, intelligence, it has the flip side to it, which actually binds and drags one and has a bewildering side to it, which if you analyze it, it's actually another curse. It's not. Somebody is very beautiful, yes, and if that beautiful person wants to be a brahmachari, it's very difficult for him. Good luck. Very hard. You're too good looking. Right? Somebody has a lot of money. But then with that money comes the maya, that it's difficult to renounce. And then people have relationships. Okay, so you have a lot of money. People have relationships with you because you have money. This is how they relate with you. They relate with you because you have money. They want money. And people who are rich know that. Why do people approach rich people? Not because they care for them. So everything you can see, if you're very thoughtful, like if you're very analytical, you're able to analyze things, quickly able to analyze. But how that's a curse, the person who analyzes knows. You analyze every damn thing. He can't stop analyzing. Can't just live his life. He has to analyze everything. Why that person said that? Why did he talk like that? What must be the motivation? Whole mental thing. And it causes so much, he can't avoid it. And he might think, wow, so nice to be dumb. I wish I was dumb. Well, a dumb person has his own set of problems because he's dumb, he can easily be, fooled. So everything in the material world, everything can only be made perfect by dovetailing it to Krishna and Krishna consciousness and Krishna service. Otherwise, everything is a curse. You know how to cook? Well, that's a curse. You don't know how to cook? That's also a curse. Everything has its. We have all this like good philosophy. What do the Christians say? Some of the they just say, oh, if God has given it to them because it's good for them, but it's not. He has not given it to me because it's not good for me. That's the extent of their philosophy, and that's it. They can't explain this. They can't explain why God would give it to one person, why it's okay, and why it's not good. They can't explain all of these things. They have that much faith, but it works. Because they're simple. They're simple, they're able to just accept that. And it's true, what they're saying is true. And you can take that even in the devotional perspective. We all have our different traits and characteristics, and these are all, if understood properly, they can help us advance in Krishna consciousness by understanding how we can overcome our anarthas because of this, and how we can dovetail the same things in Krishna service. One person's maya is not another person's maya. It's different. So in that sense, what they're saying is correct, but they can't explain all of this. Okay. Any other questions?
There's some questions from last.
Yeah, I was going to get to that, but anything from this? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So you were talking about conversation you had with Guru Maharaj just about was it mini dictators?
Yeah.
So just, I guess just one question. So why do you think that exactly transpires? Because it's an interesting point. I mean, there's so many examples of other societies that have established themselves, like the Amish, and you mentioned this group, the Mennonites. Then they're able to have a community and function and stay together, and then the homestead. But then it's as far as ISKCON goes, I mean, I don't know, from
it's an embarrassing
where I came from, straight Karmi life, some of the stuff is pretty crazy. Just how some devotees act like in the society. So like why, like, is it just like a cultural thing, or like why is that? Like we have like the knowledge and everything in the instructions, but you know, it's just people act insane. Like Chen's got the.
Yeah, I'm too blunt maybe.
Chandan's ready with the answer.
I think largely because the people that join our society and who we've preached to are generally not from a very high class sort of, or even middle class. Generally, it's like a little lower. Like some of the people that a lot of the devotees that are in our movement, generally that seems a little bit the case. Like you don't really see very intelligent people. Just like within the Christian communities, we see a lot of intelligent people going out there and like talking to people.
They may not be highly educated, but they're intelligent.
Intelligent, just like they'll go out and they'll argue with people. And Guru Maharaj is very impressed. They've done all of these things, but you don't see any of that in our society. Like who's do any of that? Nobody. And so it seems like our societies, and we were mentioning, attracted, or we've done what we can, I guess. It's a little, somewhat, seems to be that kind of section of society. Still, it should be that they become purified, but I think it's a little bit of a complex thing. But it does seem that, like if you look, a lot of the backgrounds that a lot of our devotees are from, and not particularly a lot of them not great backgrounds. We're in the West. Yeah, it's multiple things, but I think going back to the 70s, we did have a lot of like crazy people join the movement, and that kind of like continued. And I analyze that and I look at that and I go, well, there was a lot of amazing devotees, like, that were very intelligent and sharp and ready to take up the movement, but there was also a lot of devotees that had like mental health issues and things like that came in. And so there's a lot of that culture that's kind of lingering.
Even
about.
sometimes, in some cases, the leaders themselves,
Oh,
they were
yeah.
they had like split personalities, are highly efficient in one sense, but then kind of like almost like psychopathical in another way, sociopathical.
I mean, when we meet these people that take drugs, and those are the people that are joining the movement, like we go to these music festivals and they're like you can see they're like there, but like at the same time you're not there, like where are you, dude? Like, so I think a lot of it has been that, and because we're very counterculture to the whole Western culture, so people like the Christians who have more sane families don't particularly take this lifestyle up. So you got to be a little, Prabhupada says that you have to be a little crazy to take on the Krishna consciousness movement, in the West at least. In India, generally, it's a sane thing to do because you're a part of the culture. So naturally, I think that level is there, but like we don't see that so much here. You'll see that because there's like, devotees are quite sane, and like it's a little more, I mean, it is, everybody's kind of, you look around, and we're talking about this even with Maharaj, even the devotees that are here, a lot of their backgrounds, even families are together, or, have mother, father, grew up in decent families. And so we see the culture naturally here is more respectful. There's more, there's a culture of loving exchanges.
It should be understood that these factors contribute, although they're not absolute. Like you can get a crazy person from a family that's together, and you can get a very sane person from a broken family. Yet there's a general trend and understanding in society. That's perhaps the closest, observation we can get, apart from the fact that spiritual standards were highly compromised, and direct deviation from the instructions of the Guru is expected to wreak havoc.
The interesting thing is, because even if the spiritual standard was somewhat compromised, it's still much better than what the Christians have. In terms
Whose
of
standard?
even within
whose is better?
Within our community, even if the spiritual standards were somewhat compromised, it's still much higher than what the Christian communities have.
Our spiritual standards are higher than them.
Even if it's compromised.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, we don't,
not divorce.
Huh? Not divorce, but at least whatever, like, I'm speaking eating meat,
Yeah.
There's some level of,
Well, there's a little bit of difference here, right? The Christians are doing these things because, and in one sense, they don't know anything better.
Yeah.
Versus in our case, Prabhu, it's like you're directly being offensive. And there's a difference, Krishna, God, is not stupid. So they're doing it out of ignorance, and ignorance is more tolerable than wanton, disobedience due to being puffed up. So there's a little bit of there's that difference there also. It causes the punarmushiko bhava situation. Okay, I'm going to have to address some of the questions from previous weeks. Okay, so this is from 2 weeks ago. Wait, no, it was maybe last week. It's interesting because Guru Maharaj made a point in one of his classes that during the camp that Grihasthas should not rely solely on the temple, they should have some other means to take care of the family. Maybe I misunderstood that. Would that mean that people would have to work outside the farm? Would that defeat the purpose? I guess I was a little confused when he said that. So, no, that is referring to temple. Temple is different to a farm. On a farm is meant primarily to provide for grihasthas. And so on farms, we don't want grihasthas to be working full-time jobs and things like that outside. We are, as a community, meant to provide for the needs for all of those in the community. And it is not a lofty, imaginative goal. It is happening today as we speak. Thousands of people around the world are living like this in a communal way. And one of the points they said, which was very nice, was one person said at this Bruderhof documentary that you can live in a communal way if you're not ambitious. It's a very good point. If you want to be ambitious, you can't live here. But if you're not ambitious, everything will be provided. And the children are taken care of and everything. And children also just provided just like their parents did. And the communities, they don't let it grow beyond a certain level. They split off and start another community. So that also keeps it gives a sense of challenge also, and more need is created, and it doesn't all become too lackadaisical either. Anyways, there's a lot more to learn, to observe at least, and see how we can implement them. If we don't want to allow our child or ourselves to be materialistic doctors, lawyers, etc., at the risk of our time better spent in Krishna consciousness, how do we create independence from having to go into society for assistance, mainly healthcare, or prevent our community members from the farm having to go into society to learn the trades in healthcare or other fields deemed necessary for livelihood and longevity? Long term, the lifestyle of simple living and the intimate connection to Mother Bhumi will provide over time, generationally, a healthier karma for the generational line of residents on the farm. But in the interim, what is the solution? To keep the devotees on the farm with little to no agitation from the outside world. Should selected devotees be trained in certain fields, with the long-term goal of training their children and other inspired or qualified members on the farm how to execute these tasks, thus creating a network within the farm devotees for years to come to do everything in-house. Question goes on. Yeah, it's a long question. So let me just address it till this point. No, we are not trying to immediately artificially cut ourselves from society. The point is we are trying to insulate. There's a difference between separating and insulating. Insulation means when it's cold outside, you wear warm clothes. So it's having insulation. But you're still exposed. You're in contact with the cold. You're not indoors where you're cut off. So we need to insulate ourselves, and we need to build a house where we can eventually cut ourselves off from this nasty weather that's outside. So it takes time. But in the interim, we have to insulate ourselves enough to the extent that we don't fall sick, and we can continue building this generational home where devotees can be sheltered. So it's literally that when you insulate, yes, you are having to buy jackets from outside. It's not jackets that you made. You have to buy it. You just stay warm. What are you going to freeze to death? You have to buy jackets, you buy boots, and all of that. But then once you build a house and you're inside, you don't need the jacket. You can take your jacket off. You don't require it at that point. So similarly, it's not that we are not going to take care of our health. It's not that but in terms of exactly whether we would train doctors, maybe, because if we can get health care, which we're getting, for instance, like full-time devotees are able to get health care for not much, just pay a little bit, and you get health care, then just get health care, and then try to live a healthier lifestyle, try to learn these herbs and other things that can help you. Ultimately, in Vedic culture, that was what was done. Otherwise, what are we supposed to learn? All the types of surgeries and all the types of different fields of medicine. It's very difficult. Some things they have done in Hungary, for instance, is they've had some devotees get trained in massage and some basic medicine. What happens is many times Krishna sends someone who's already somewhat knowledgeable in that field, and then they have to just learn a little bit more, and then they become full-time on the farm, and then they offer their services. Like that's what's happening in Hungary. So they have one resident doctor who's a devotee, and I think she learned a little bit of Ayurveda also. And then they have some devotees who went and got themselves trained in massage in India, because that's very helpful, especially as people get a little older. It helps. Now, I am planning to go and see, that's why I'm planning to go to the Hutterites, which are a community of Anabaptists who largely are separated from modern society. They don't like going out there. But they're welcoming to visitors compared to the Amish. And the Hutterites share everything. The Amish are allowed to own private possessions and have private things, but the Hutterites don't. They live communally. So I was going to find out, what do you do? Doctors, what are you going to do? What do you do when someone needs something? Same thing with lawyers. If you can make a lawyer into a devotee, then maybe our legal problems are solved. And these things will have to be seen. It's not, again, I did mention some cases where devotees may have to go and learn certain things from outside. But they are expected to have, we're not expecting to cut ourselves completely from outside society. So we have to go and learn something, we'll go and learn it as the need arises. Then, oops, I lost the place. How do we keep gender separate in this endeavor to cultivate roles for medical care, since the women should be mainly at home with the house duties and not in the world learning how to do these skills from modern education? We'll have to see according to need. It's not that, again, It's not, for instance, that women can't speak to outsiders or, in some cases, sell some things or something like that. I mean, it's not going to be, it's not that rigid. Although largely there will be gender roles, and that's the point. But it's not a complete hard and fast thing. Ideally, we can inspire and preach to those in these respective fields in modern society and move on the farm, but very few devotees like the idea of committing to farm life. Well, there are some devotees, and Krishna sends people. Ultimately, we are depending on Krishna. Will there be a set community of devotees with roles in the modern world we will connect to and bring to the farm for ailments? Yes, that's also a larger vision, is to have supporters. They may not live on the farm, but they can support you. And so you have support, vets, you have support doctors, you have support lawyers, you have support people who do this, who like what you're doing and help you pro bono as a service. And there are things like this, there are communities like that. And what is the long-term plan for creating a fully self-sustainable lifestyle to meet the needs of the devotees?
It's a big one.
Yeah, that's long-term plan is to try and see, because again, a lot of these things also depend on the world outside. It also depends on the world outside. If everything gets bombed out, what hospital is going to exist? So then people are starting to figure things out. I mean, it's a fact. Lawyers exist as long as law and order exists. If a country fails, what are the lawyers going to do? So situations can also change as society changes. The history of the Anabaptists is something interesting, how they've been persecuted, moved around. That's why there's so many of them in the United States. They were originally in Europe. We're going a little longer because we started late. So, yes. In regards to Kalki Prabhu's question, could it be because chanting Hare Krishna is such a purifying process, the worst things have come out of the individual before it gets better? Just a thought. Because I remember asking when I first started chanting, why do I feel worse? Although I'm chanting, engaged in service, whatever. The response is that when you clean a room, it gets dirty first. Because these other religious processes, from my understanding, aren't really purifying anything, because they're still engaged in all these sinful activities, still without a proper understanding. So it seems to be expected that within our society, these mini dictators come about. Interesting
Analysis.
there's a word, or you can extend it. No, that is not the case, because yes, it was said in terms of chanting that dirty things come out, that you start to, but that was in the sense that you start to perceive them. You start to perceive their existence. It's not that they weren't there, but you start to perceive their existence, and that's in one's own self. It's not that something never existed and then it kind of just comes out like some dragon within the body or something, and it comes like that. That's not that's not what is. That almost makes it like better not to be Krishna conscious. Because if that were the case, well, why should we be Krishna conscious? My gosh, it's better not to be Krishna conscious, because who could be? Anybody could be Hitler amongst all of us, and Stalin or whatever. And so better if you don't chant Hare Krishna, then you won't become that Hitler or Stalin, because, whatever, you're too tamoguni for it to come out or something. But no, that's definitely not the case, because, so the other point are these religions aren't actually purifying. They aren't purifying in the sense that they don't purify oneself completely of anarthas, yet when they pray to God, they do get some reciprocation, and they do develop some level of moral, worldly saintliness. They talk politely, they develop tolerance, and For instance, these Anabaptists, they welcome anybody, and they don't like to be, specifically they're against racism, extremely against that. And that's interesting because they evolved at a time when these kind of things were very rampant in society. So, because they say, oh, they're all of them are children of God. Everybody is children of God. That's a level of vision in line with God's creation. Yeah, they aren't perfect, which is why they don't see the animals also like that. But definitely there has to be, there is some benefit. It's not that there is no benefit at all. It's just that their religious practices aren't enough to, because of a very materialistic concept of God, they only offer very little purification. And the purification is negligent, but it is there. So from our perspective, it's practically they're not getting purified. But from a worldly perspective, you do see the difference. In the case of devotees, well, if devotees aren't following the spiritual master, they don't follow the orders. And part of these reasons is because there's many of them are crazy. But the point is, when we deviate, then we fall back to what we came from. And that's generally it doesn't come out very well, because anyways it gets weird, because and sometimes coupled with offenses it can get even worse. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask or say on that point, could it also just be like, because the philosophy is so developed, and there's just so much to work with, that one can more easily twist it to their own interest?
Yeah, that's also there.
We see it
that's
like
also a very good point.
with like law.
It's very easy, yeah. It's very easy to do that. You can connect anything to anything in Krishna consciousness, and just like you want to prove if you want a particular stance, you are most likely going to find it in the Veda base. Yeah, there'll be things. There's something there that supports divorce. You'll find it. And so that's also there. That with these Anabaptist Christians, their philosophy is extremely simple and very rigid. It has its disadvantages in not developing into a very convincing philosophy, but it did lead to a pretty decent lifestyle.
Prabhupada said no crazies or lazies. Therefore, you gotta be careful if they're somebody can be crazy, but they can be really intelligent.
Crazy people. Yes, several of them pretty intelligent.
You gotta be careful,
actually,
because I've had plenty of experience.
Oh yeah,
like
I think we all
in
also
preaching, and and somebody's very sharp with the philosophy, but it's sometimes it's very subtle, and you have to kind of pick it out. Oh, there it is, and it's okay, this person is not all there that he understand, and sometimes they understand philosophy more than the devotees that have been around for a few years, and they're just been studying it for 6 months. But then you got to catch this guy's crazy, so you can't let those type of people take up leadership positions and things like that. They can practice.
They can practice, but they can't become leaders.
Yeah. And you can't let them take a hold. So that's why it requires a society of devotees that are well established, sane, to be able to judge that and not allow that to come up. And so that's
which is also why it's really important that the next generation, it's really a lot of the hope actually lies there in trying to develop our society, which is why it's an important natural progression, and it really needs to happen. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Where do you get these ragis from?
I thought you said the altar would be closed.
Where do we get ragis from? Yeah. Yeah. Huh? Oh. The doctor just told me I shouldn't.
Huh? No, it's fine. I didn't recognize that the decorations were taken. I was like, this is going to be too late and this and
It's
that.
hard to digest.
Okay.
He said that it's hard to digest. I should take ragi, wheat, no wheat, barley, and this other thing is okay apparently also. What is this, huh? I can't take rice, no.
You can't take rice.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Quinoa,
Quinoa.
ragi, barley.
Oh, ragi is good. Very good for health. Hey, there's tasty ways to make it. I
You're not alone. I'd love to eat ragi.
I haven't been very lucky with certain things, but I'm sure there's nice ways to make it.
Ragi kitchen. Groggy.
When you chance I can get some benefit.
I feel good. He's strong.
Can't think of me if I can get some benefit.
I wish. My mind gets a sense gratification, so I gotta get
Roti.